Yo, Tripolar Bear, we're going to talk about some vendor recipes. So, you're leveling on League Start, you want it to be a lot easier. These recipes will help you out a lot, and I have some tips at the end that are not going to be recipe based, but are still extremely, extremely helpful. So, let's talk about the very first one. It's super useful. It's really basic, right? You have an iron ring and a blue gem. When you do this, this gives you a sapphire ring. This is a really easy way to get resist rings early on, because if you're a witch, you start with fireball instead of vendoring the fireball for a fragment of a wisdom scroll. You can instead wait, and if you get an iron ring, now you have your sapphire ring for Morvel or for the wand recipe we'll talk about in a little bit. Same with topaz, right? A green dexterity gem gives you topaz ring for lightning, and a red strength gem gives you a ruby ring for fire resistance. Super, super easy way to get these rings as soon as you can while leveling, because 30 resistance is huge before you get any res penalties, right? This gets you halfway to capped, just about. So the next one is going to be the wand recipe. For this, you will need magic wands that you either pick up off the ground magic, buy from Nessa magic, or you'll use transmutation orbs on these wands for this recipe. The easiest way to get transmutation orbs is to vendor unidentified items. So it's very important when you start out in the league that you pick up all the magic and rare items and vendor them unidentified, so that you can get a couple transmutations for wand recipes if you're going to do this, or just to sell these transmutations for more scrolls of wisdom, so that you can ID more items later on. And when you ID and vendor rares, you get more alteration shards. So that's how you get transmutes and alterations. All right, so you have your ruby, topaz, or sapphire based on what element of spell you're leveling with. Keep in mind, this only works with spells that hit. We'll talk about a cute little wand recipe you can do if you're a damage over time caster or something along those lines. Cold dot or chaos dot, something like that. I'll have a recipe for that in a little bit. But you want a fire 2 spell wand to level up a lot faster if you're using fire spells that hit. So you get a magic wand with your transmutation orbs that you got from vendoring unidentified rares. You vendor this with a normal ruby ring and an alteration, and this is going to give you a require level 8 wand, right? So the first one with a normal ring, magic wand, alteration, level 8 wand. The next one you're going to do, right? And these can be tailored to whatever element you're doing, right? So the next one's going to be for lightning builds, right? You can do a magic wand, and now instead of normal, you do a magic topaz and, an alteration. And this gives you higher flat damage based on the rarity of this ring, but the required level to use the wand is going to be higher now. So this is going to be required level 14 instead of 8. So now we have an even better wand, right? And let's say we're a cold spell, right? We did a normal ring for level 8, magic ring for 14. Now we're going to get a rare ring, but rare rings might be a little difficult to find within the first act or two. The easiest way to get a rare ring very easily is to grab a normal base and grab one of the essences you find along the way to the doors while leveling, right? You know, we're all just walking towards the door. All right, grab your new ring that you got by essencing, vendor a magic wand, your rare ring, and an alteration for a required level of 20 now. And this is going to be a higher tier. So if you have advanced mod descriptions on this wand, you can see it is a tier 8 to fire. This is tier 7, and this is tier 6. So normal gives you the lowest tier that you can get through the vendor recipe, and rare gives you the highest. But obviously, you have to be a higher level to be able to use the rare recipe. So let's talk about one that you could do if you're a damage over time character. So you need to grab yourself a chain belt. It needs to be magic, rarity, or higher. You're going to vendor it, this magic chain belt, with a whetstone and with a magic wand. And this is going to give you just a little bit more spell damage. It's really not too much, but it's a lot better than nothing, and it really doesn't take much, right? If you already have a magic wand. Now, this is for dots, right? If you're an on-hit spell, if you're ice traps, if you're Armageddon brand, if you're any spell that hits, the flat damage is going to be much, much better. But if you're damage over time, right? Creeping Frost, Cold Dot, I guess, you know, Creeping Frost has a hit. A better one would be stuff like Essence Drain, Contagion, or any of those pure dot builds, right? Soul Rend, stuff like this. where you are almost never hitting with the spell, so it's much better to just get the spell damage. A rare chain belt will give you more, but this one is better than nothing. The next recipe is going to be for +1 gems. This one was just introduced this patch. So you grab gems that have the tag of the plus gem level wand that you want. So in this case, I want physical, plus level of physical gems, right? I want that on my wand, so I'm going to grab a gem that has the physical tag. In this example, it's War Banner. These gems need to add up their quality to at least 40. Now, I have 2 to make it very easy on my inventory, but you can have a bunch of these physical gems that have like 5 quality, 8 quality, right? They just, at the end of the day, have to add up to 40. And it's very easy. You just vendor the 2 gems and you put a normal wand in, and out you get level of all physical spell skill gems. And this could be fire, cold, chaos, lightning, everything. It just has to match the tag on the gem. You see the last tag up top, physical. That's what determines what you get from the wand. And now we have a +1 fizz. That's really cool. Now, if you're in Trade League, you can buy these for 1 chaos. It's really not that big of a deal. It's probably too much hassle to do this in Trade League. But if you're an SSF, it is very, very helpful, especially when you're first starting out your characters. The next one's going to be for you melee bros. All right, not everyone's a spellcaster. I get it. The next one, everybody should be using this. If you're leveling melee and you're not doing this, you're actually trolling. All right, you just grab your weapon, a whetstone, and a magic rustic sash. Or, you know, this could be a rare rustic sash. Generally, you can get better rolls within this tier depending on like the rarity or the roll on the rustic sash itself. It's really not that big of a deal to put too much thought into it. You kind of just grab whatever rustic sash you have and you can just throw it in here and get a nice physical damage weapon. You see here, if we grab this one, we can even make this one rare. So we'll do our weapon, right? A big axe, a whetstone, and now a rare rustic sash. And this one gives us an even higher physical damage roll than the magic rustic sash, right? This is 64 increased physical damage. This one only gives us 44, right? So you want to do magic if you can. Rarity is even, even better to have a rare rustic sash. And you'll find that with all of these recipes, right? It's always better to do it with a rare, and that makes sense because if you're vendoring a higher value input, you're going to get a higher value output. The next recipe is something often overlooked, but very important. It's going to be your life flask, right? I forget this all the time, but just vendor your old 3-to-1s right before you get to Brutus, right? Before you do Brutus, you want your mediums, right? Before you do anything else, you're going to want larges later on. And you should be kind of like cycling these if you're not like finding any. Right now I have a large life flask, requires level 6. And, we've got these. And now we're going to get a greater life flask, requiring level 12. So it's very, very important that you're keeping your life flasks up, especially with this new patch coming up. It's going to be kind of a pain in leveling up, with higher difficulty. I guess we'll have to see. It's not going to be too crazy, but you are going to really want to upgrade your life flask. All right. This next one is going to be huge. This is for everybody. This is something you should be doing on every character you level. Essences are very, very, very valuable while leveling because it gives you a free chance at a nice rare item. Even these crappy minion move speed essences are still valuable because it's like an elk, except you lose just 1 mod. So grabbing this essence and a normal piece of gear, just throw it on there. Right, you're going to get some random stuff, but we got a little bit of lightning resistance. And if you hold your Alt key and you have advanced mod descriptions, you can see, do you have an extra suffix open? This has 3 suffixes, so it does not. Right, we are going to do this on our gear and hope that we have a suffix open along with 1 or 2 resistances. And I like to do this essence on rings because rings are already, especially 2-stone that gives cold and lightning. Rings are already giving resistance. And we're using this to try and cap our resistance very easily, right? You see here, we hit 2 resistances. We have fire and lightning. That is really, really good, right? Now we have a 2-stone ring, and it's got a little resistance, right? These are very low item levels, so the rolls aren't going to be too high. But this is stuff you want to do if you have the essences and if your resistances aren't capped, right? You just grab whatever crappy essence you have, And once you've done this, and you don't have to do this with the essences, you can obviously just be IDing rares and whatnot, but the essences are very, very easy to do this on. But, you know, random pieces of gear that you have, right? You know, your gloves might have life or resistance. I didn't get any decent ones off of these essences, but let's say, you know, I rolled resist or 2 on this, or maybe life or something, right? You're going to come to your bench, and you can do this right out of the Twilight Strand. It costs 1 transmutation. You go to your hideout, you go to your crafting bench. It costs 1 transmute to get 16 to 20 resistance on a piece of your gear. Now, this is so huge because in the early acts, you only have to get to 75, right? I like to do this before I go fight Dominus because Dominus has a lot of duders and all of his duders do a lot of elemental damage. So I like to have close to resistance cap to make that fight a lot easier. And you know what I'll do? Guess what? Look at these wands. All right, you know what's coming. I'm going to do this on the wands. All right, I love doing this. 1 transmute on your flat damage spellcaster wand. Look at that. Not only is it giving you flat damage, it's also giving you 20 res. This is so crazy good, right? And I'll do this on the other one, right? I need a little fire res. Boom. This helps me cap res off of Kitava before Dominus and right before Kitava phase 2. You could do this on all of your stuff, right? Even on your plus level, you know, go ahead, throw some resistance on there, right? It's 1 transmute. You unlock it out of the Twilight Strand, right? As soon as you can go to a hideout, you have this in your crafting bench. And it is so powerful to cap your resistances early on. It's going to be so useful, right? So please, do your wand vendor recipe if you're leveling spellcaster. Do your whetstone rustic sash recipe if you're leveling melee. And please use this crafting bench to cap your resistance. It's going to help you out. Anyways, catch you guys in the live stream. Have a good league start. Have fun. Bye.